Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 39, Gumbo Live, the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Phoebe Wild. She's a social manager of Bezier Games, and you've seen her all over the internet. Gumbo Live is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of our other fine members, like Katie's Game Corner, where Katie's from the UK. She loves all kind of wargaming. She's very active on social media, and she writes a very personal blog filled with deep dives on some of the latest games. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hit me up on social media tonight, Twitter at BoardGameGumbo, or on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions for Phoebe on the chat. But enough blather. Let's get right to our guest, Phoebe Wild of Bezier Games. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excited to have you. You and I have met a couple of times back at Dice Tower Con, where I think I taught you hopefully the correct way to play Not Alone, if I remember right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you were at Stronghold. I was at Bezier. That was good.
And then saw you again at Gen Con, where I actually bought Werewords from you. You were a good saleswoman. I was like, I remember that voice. I remember the voice from the Teach. But for the people that haven't met you before, give us the elevator pitch. Who is Phoebe Wild, and what is Bezier Games?
Sure.
Or Cardboard Vault, whichever one you want to talk about, or both.
I'll talk about Bezier first, since that's kind of my more recent thing. So I'm the social media manager for Bezier Games. So I do all the tweets, Facebooks, Instagrams, all the social media and customer service kind of thing. And I've also stepped into a bit of development, game development as well now. So that's really exciting for me. I can't talk about it yet, but I'm co-developing a game with Ted, which I'm very excited about. So
maybe we can get some hints out of you tonight. Maybe some little skills. We'll work on that. How's that? I was wondering, social media manager. I actually, I've met a couple of them, but I don't know what is a day in the life of a social media manager. And we're always trying to find out what it's like to work in the board game industry here. So I did a little research, and I want you to help me. Just correct me if I'm wrong about some of the things that a social media manager might do. Is that okay?
Hello?
Phoebe. Yeah.
Hooray!
Not sure what happened there. That was really weird. I'm glad to have you back.
Australian internet. It's run by kangaroos. Who knows?
Okay. That's good. I was talking about social media manager. I wanted to see if you could help me with a day in the life of being a social media manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did a little research. So let's go. So you tell me if this is right. First off, as Steve O'Rourke, who's checking in the name father, he says, long distance is tough. We take two. Welcome back. That's right. We're doing take two. All right. How about this? First thing I think that Phoebe Wild, a social media manager, does is she wakes up and talks smack to the Kiwis while eating Vegemite for breakfast.
That's about right.
Yeah, I know you like Vegemite because I saw that when you were Geek of the Week. You defended Vegemite, and I've never had it.
Vegemite's great.
Okay.
Have you seen my Vegemite challenge from Gen Con last year?
I have not. I need to check that out.
Okay. And anyone who's watching, you should go check out my Vegemite challenge after this. We basically went around to a bunch of designers and publishers, and if they ate Vegemite, they got a little cute stuffed koala. So we got some very funny reactions.
Did you get everybody to try it?
We've got about a dozen people, so it was a lot of fun.
I guess we grew up on that song and we hear about Vegemite and we don't know what it is. So you know what? I'm willing to take the Vegemite. I'll try just about anything once. Hey, we eat crawfish over here. So, if we can do that, we can try Vegemite. How about number 3 though? Challenge Ted Alspach to a Star Wars trivia contest.
Oh, I would lose. I would definitely lose that.
Is it true you've seen only Force Awakens and not the other movies? Is that true?
Yep, that's true.
Okay, we got to get that rectified. I don't know if the Gumbo viewers are going to like that, but hopefully you'll just keep catching one of the movies. Steve O'Rourke says, "Oh, go ahead."
There's honestly no reason I haven't seen Star Wars. Like, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I've watched Doctor Who. I watch Star Trek. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it. There's no reason. It is. Yeah.
Steve says Vegemite is, shall we say, bold, but it's not his taste, unfortunately. So
yeah. That's fair. I think if you grow up with it, you like it, and if you don't, it's just salty soy sauce.
Ooh, okay. I do like soy sauce, though. I like that. All right, I only got 3 left, so let's go through those quick.
All right.
Because these are important tasks for a social media manager right here. Get into a Twitter war with Stephen Bonacore so he'll stop using castles in his logo. That's Bezier. They've got castles locked up. Why is Stephen using castles in his logo.
It's just a crafty cross promotion. That's all it is.
Okay. All right. I've got two more for you. Post sneak peeks of ultimate one-night palaces of Mad King Ludwig on Facebook. I mean, that's part of the social media manager job, right? Posting little tidbits of information, right?
Absolutely.
Are we going to, are you confirming that we're going to see ultimate one-night palaces of Mad King Ludwig?
I can neither confirm nor deny that will be a game.
I like that. And last, of course, you've had a long day as social media manager. Get ready for bed with a cold Victorian bitter. I'm not sure what that is, but I read that Australians like cold Victorian bitters.
I'm not a beer person, but it's an Australian beer, so it's not my thing. But there are a lot of people who drink it. So,
what's your drink of choice?
Either cider, wine, or maybe an espresso martini, which is probably, I think it's an Australian specialty. I don't think you have espresso martinis.
An espresso teeny, no. Apple teenies I've heard of, not espresso teenies, no.
It's basically just a shot of coffee in a martini, and it's great.
All right, so all joking aside, what does a social media manager do?
So, I mean, my basic job description is manage all our social media feeds. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those every day. I'll kind of check what people are saying to us, if anyone has questions or concerns or comments. And then obviously schedule all the posts that will be going out over the next day or so. So I use the program because I'm long distance, so I'm not up until 4 a.m.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I use the program so I can schedule everything ahead of time and kind of make sure that we're doing an interesting mix of content. And I also monitor like a bunch of websites for new content that I'll be able to post and things like that. And then it's kind of goes into marketing and planning kind of campaigns for when we're about to announce and release games, a lot of communication with press and reviewers and things like that. So it's a whole mix of things, really. But I'm really lucky I can do all of it online. So I'm able to actually work for Bezier from Australia.
It sounds like a great job for a person who's tech savvy. You love websites. You've done, video. You've done all this stuff. But can you confirm or deny Steve's choice? Where were you? It needs to happen.
Where were you? I like that. I think werewolves in a quiet suburban village. I think that's waiting to be made, really.
It could happen. It could happen.
Yep.
Hey, before the show, we were talking about some games you've played recently and in leading up to the show. We had our marathon game session this weekend. The first Louisiana board game centric convention. We've had fan conventions, Comic Cons, things like that, but never one just about board games. And you've had a recent big marathon session. What did you get to play? What was good?
Well, so for my 25th birthday, I did a 25-hour board gaming marathon at my local game store. So that was a lot of fun. I'm friends with the owner, so he let me hire the place out for 25 hours. And we were there from 10 a.m. right through to 10 a.m., 11 a.m., playing games. So did a whole mix of stuff. We had, when everyone was there, we were doing werewords and code names and all those kind of big group games to let everyone play together. Stupidly, when it got to 1:30 in the morning, we decided to play A Feast for Odin, which took us about 4 hours. We had a lot of fun, but it killed, half the night. We didn't even notice that it was gone. So it was actually really good.
Yeah, that aspect. But boy, that's a brain burn, and you did it way deep into the night. How did you? I mean, I would be struggling there.
We played the short version, so it was one turn less, thank goodness.
Okay.
And I'd played once before, so I taught three other people. Yeah, it was a 4-player game, so I taught 3 other people, and everyone actually handled it pretty well, surprisingly.
So I haven't played A Feast for Odin. Is it fair to say that from what I've heard, that it's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of Uwe's favorite little mechanics all thrown together? What did you think?
It's interesting because it basically feels like a bunch of mini games, and you've got to figure out which one you want to play. So it's the best way I've heard it described is it's wide rather than deep. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And for me, the challenge is I want to go hunting and I want to go find an island and I want to go, build up my resources and do all these different things. And you can kind of do all of them during the game because there's no build up to doing all of them. You can kind of jump from one to the other, the problem with that is you really need to specialize to get your points somewhere. So I end up going all over the place and kind of not doing very well. Whereas if someone focuses on one particular thing, then they end up doing a lot better, I think. So,
but to enjoy the game, you kind of do all of the different things, but it would have been better to focus on one of them, right?
I went and explored Iceland, and I lost the game because of Iceland. So there you go.
You know, Iceland has been the death knell for so many gamers over the years. Well, not really, but I mean, that's at least in Feast for Odin, it sounds like that's what's going on. Yeah. All right, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with episode 39. I've got Phoebe Wild, our special guest tonight. We're talking about some of her favorite games, 25 hours for 25 years. That's got a cool marketing ring. A social media manager came up with it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
What else did you guys play?
We played, let me have a look. We played Ponzi Scheme. That was a lot of fun.
Ooh, Ponzi Scheme.
It's a game that I love and I'm terrible at. So.
Yeah, I'm absolutely terrible at Ponzi Scheme. You and I were talking before the show. It's a game that we struggle with in the Gumbo, but we absolutely love it. It's like Survival, the board game. You're just trying to get to the end of the game without losing all your money.
I think the reason I love it is you explain it to someone and it doesn't make sense because they're like, oh, that's all you do. You just take some debt and try to pay back the debt. But then you realize it's all mind games. It's just like, what are people selling for? Are they going to go bankrupt? Are they actually really rich over there? And it ended up being that, the two people who had the most in assets went bankrupt the same turn. So I came very close to winning, and my friend, who she only had, a couple more assets than me, she actually pulled out a victory, even though she looked like she was behind. So it's judging where people are at, having a really good eye for bargains and things like that is where the game really shines.
I don't know that I've ever won. And even the best guy in our group, Bradley, has maybe won once. It's always just a random person almost that just survives. Like you said, it's that mental challenge of figuring out what other people are. But hey, there's Dr. Steve Finn. Steve Finn's games. I don't know if you familiar with a lot of his games over there. Biblios, Herbaceous. Yep. Yeah, Dr. Steve says, yay for Ponzi Scheme. another big fan. In fact, I'd like to know if anybody's watching out there, has anybody won Ponzi Scheme? I mean, it's almost the game where you just survive. You don't actually win. And even if you do win, you don't remember winning because you were down so much. Now, there is a game that I wanted to ask you about. Jesse Lee, the designer of Ponzi Scheme, has it's not a new game. It's new to us. Oh, Steve Finn, of course. Dr. Finn says, yes, he's won Ponzi Scheme.
Of course you have.
Now you're better than us, Doc.
I love Herbaceous, by the way. Nice job. Oh. Nice job.
Oh, very nice. So he's got a new one out. Sunset Over Water, and he's got one on Kickstarter right now. So check that out. I apologize, Doc. I can't think of the one that's on Kickstarter right now, but check that out if you like Dr. Steve Finn's games. But talking Jesse Lee, Flow of History. You said you have or you haven't played Flow of History yet?
I haven't played it. My boyfriend backed the deluxe version, but we haven't got around to it yet. It's in the pile of shame.
Yeah, so don't think this is the regular box. The regular box is going to be the retail version is going to be a little smaller. You guys have the deluxe version that's a little bit bigger. Yeah. And let me tell you, Jesse Lee, another incredible bidding mechanic like Ponzi Scheme. Yeah. It doesn't have the little Velcro wallet or felt wallets where you're exchanging money. It's all open, but pricing it's got this strange bidding mechanic where you actually, when you're playing most games like a Seven Wonders, you want to draft a card, you just take it. Right? Yeah. This one, you bid for it, and then other people can outbid you. So it becomes that mechanic of, am I going to bid for something to prevent Phoebe from getting it? But how much is Phoebe willing to pay for it? Sort of like that when you're playing Ponzi Scheme and you're offering the little chips. How much do I offer them? Because I don't really want them to buy it from me. I just want to get the money back, right?
Yeah.
So he's taken that to the extreme here in the Flow of History. So if you ever get a chance, I'd love to hear your thoughts whenever you and your boyfriend finally get to play the Flow of History.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If anybody's played it out there, let us know. All right. So some other games you've been playing. Oh, your big marathon gaming. You talked about Feast for Odin. You talked about Ponzi Scheme. But I noticed that you're a big fan, or at least I think you're a big fan of a game that a lot of people have played.
Yes.
Charterstone.
Definitely a fan of Charterstone. We're about halfway.
Jamie right there.
that was very exciting. That was Gen Con last year, and it was I got a little quick look inside the box before it was officially out. So I was very excited about that.
Did that give you any help with the game?
Not really. Although I'm doing pretty well at the moment. I'm not winning. Well, it's hard to tell, but I'm doing pretty well. But we just love discovering the story and kind of watching all the new elements unfold. It's just a lot of fun. We're about halfway through now. We're playing with 5 people, and it's just, I love it. Yeah.
We started with 3, and then we picked up 2 after about 2 plays, I think in our second or third play. So we're running, 5 now. And we got kind of stuck, unfortunately. One of the main guys in it switched jobs. So he's unable to play with us on Sunday nights. And then one of the main guys got his Gloomhaven pledge in, and that was it. Right. You know, Charterstone went out the window, and it was all Gloomhaven all the time, unfortunately. Oh, and speaking of Gloomhaven, I think you've met Isaac Childress, isn't that right?
I did, yeah. I interviewed him about the new game that he had on Kickstarter, I think it was. I can't actually remember what it was called now, but it was really good. Is that Founders of Gloomhaven? Yeah, that's it.
I got a picture up right now. Is that what we're looking at right here?
Yeah, that's Founders of Gloomhaven. So that looked really interesting. I haven't played Gloomhaven. I don't think it's really my jam, the whole dungeon crawling kind of thing. I've heard it's good. I'd be willing to give it a go, but yeah. I've heard very good things. Obviously, it's number 1 on the BGG list now. But Founders of Gloomhaven looked really interesting. That's definitely up my alley with all Tetris-y kind of buildings and more of a Eurocentric feel rather than I guess the battling and the dungeon crawling. So,
well, back to Charterstone. Without giving away the spoilers, obviously, what have you, if you've liked it? What have you liked about Charterstone?
I think I really love it's just like whimsical, like it just feels happy to play because you start off with your own little characters and they're all cute. I love the diversity of all the characters, and then you kind of building your own track. And it is a competitive game, but it doesn't feel aggressive. Like I played Seafall, and one of my issues with Seafall was that it felt very aggressive. And even though that aggression between players only lasted in the game for that session, the rivalry kind of existed continuing the campaign. So you had this like weird, dynamic between the players. Whereas Charterstone, it's competitive. You're still trying to beat people and get the most points, but you're all kind of just building things and doing your own thing rather than attacking each other. And it just feels really nice to develop your little patch of the world and kind of contribute to naming things, and it's just really enjoyable. I really like it.
Yeah, I honestly look. I'm trying to win it. I don't mean to take it lightly. I am trying to win every game.
Yeah.
But I'm having so much fun exploring the game, and I don't want to give too many details away. But exploring the game and the characters within the game, that I tend to forget about certain areas of the board that are. I'm trying not to go into spoilers. Certain areas of the board that are better at scoring points than others. And
absolutely.
The other guy that plays with us, he and I always talk after every game, like we're having so much fun with the storyline itself. And I'm actually a fan of the art. Some of the people in our group are not fans of the art, but I think the art is awesome.
I love the art.
It fits the style of game that we have, right?
Yeah.
So I think anything else you like about Charterstone that you can tell us?
I mean, so far, what we've seen of the story is I'm really enjoying that. I'm not going to say anything about it, obviously, but I'm enjoying that progression. And I think, this isn't a spoiler. You can unlock crates. That's in the rule book.
Sure, it's in the rule book. Yeah.
And that's just a lot of fun. So a lot of our early game, everyone's just opening crates. Maybe that's not the best strategic choice, but we just want to find more things and explore. So
it's the most fun.
Yeah.
Well, some of the other ones I saw on your list, it's funny. You're known as a person who likes heavy games, or at least medium heavy games, right? But a lot of the games on your list were games that are just fun for friends. What was the impetus behind Sushi Go or Sushi Go Party and King Domino, or King Domino, as Bruno would say? What was the emphasis behind that? Did you have a mixture of people that were big into gaming, or was it just because of the celebration?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a bit of both. So it was about 20 or 30 people who were coming and going over the course of the 25 hours. And, some of them weren't gamers at all. Like my best friend from high school, she's not a gamer at all. So, but she really got into, she even played Flow of History, actually. We had another group playing that at my birthday and she won. So she really got into some of the games. But I really wanted games that were accessible and that let people kind of just hang out and socialize without the pressure of having to learn or remember too many rules. And I just played games that were just easy and good to spend time with friends rather than having to think too much. Like when we got down to just a few people, we played kind of the smaller, heavier games because we were all hanging out anyway by that point. Like when we played Feast for Odin at 2 a.m., it was just the four of us left.
Yeah. When you had big crowds, that's where you can play things like Bonanza and Six Nymph and Code Names and all those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Code Names was definitely a hit. I think we played that for a couple of hours, just rotating and people going to get snacks. And it's just one of those easy games that you can jump in and out of, and I love it.
We played it so much 2 Christmases ago that it's kind of died out in the group. And then I watched at the Louisiana convention, the one that we just had, I watched a group of new gamers playing Code Names, and I'd forgotten how much I love that game. Just the screams and the yells and pointing at people. I thought you were thinking of this. So you knew what happened. Somebody hit the hit the tray. I forgot what it's called. The secret agent.
The assassin.
The assassin. That's it.
Yeah.
So you knew somebody hit it. But to hear the squeals of laughter, it reminded me why Code Names is such a good game. So. Yeah, these are all. So, I mean, if you had to give advice to somebody doing a celebration like that, would that be what would be your number one tip?
Yeah, definitely just be aware of who you're inviting. Like, if you're having people who aren't gamers or, who like lighter games, make sure those are available. Like, have games that, because I had a lot of different friend groups that kind of came together for this birthday. So I had, the group I usually game with, and then I had friends from high school, and I had some of my boyfriend's friends coming as well, and so they didn't really know each other. And games like Code Names, because it's team based and requires working together, it really brought people like socializing outside of their own groups and just getting to know each other as well. So that was really nice. And just games that if you can explain it in under 2 minutes, it's probably going to be great. For that kind of thing.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here on episode 39. We've got Phoebe Wild, the social media manager of Bezier Games. I do have a question for you. You mentioned a game recently that you played, and I want to know your thoughts on it because I don't know. I didn't do any research. Tell me about Spirit Island. What did you think of Spirit Island?
I love Spirit Island. So that photo that you have up right now is actually is that?
No, that's us playing.
Oh, that's you. Yeah, I was going to say that's the real copy.
You guys have Whataburger over there in Australia or not? That's a Whataburger cup in the corner.
Right, there we go. I actually played it for the first time back in 2014, so when it was still a prototype.
Wow.
I met the designer completely by chance. I went to my first BGG con and posted on BGG saying, does anyone have a spare bed in a room somewhere? Eric, the designer, happened to reply, and we've been roommates at BGG Con since.
Really?
So he's an awesome guy, and he was developing this when I met him. And so I played the early prototypes. I saw, it was pretty developed when I saw it, but he didn't have all the adversaries finalized and all the different spirits, but the gameplay itself was pretty much where it is now. And I just kind of fell in love with it then, just because of the story behind it and the passion that he put into it. And it was really interesting, really deep, heavy game as well. Like it's a brain burner.
What's your play time on it?
If you know what depends how quickly you lose, really. It could be 5 minutes, like Pandemic. Okay. No, but if you play through for a decent amount of time, for 2 players, probably 2 hours, maybe 90 minutes if you know what you're doing. But because you can play with kind of the beginner setup, so you have a pre-existing progression path and that kind of thing, so you have less choices to make. And that's kind of how you ease into the game. And then once you're familiar with that, you'll pick a spirit, but then whenever you get new cards, you'll actually draw from the deck and choose. So you've got a lot more thinking going on in terms of how you're going to combine your powers and how you're going to progress your spirit's abilities, rather than just having a preset, oh, now I get this power, now I get this power kind of thing. So there's a lot of different combinations, and even if you're familiar with the game, there's still going to be a lot of like thinking behind what you're trying to do.
So it works as a 2-player?
Definitely. I don't know if I'd play it with more than 3, just because you'd need everyone really to know the game pretty well. Otherwise it would take forever, because everyone's kind of making decisions at the same time. So if you have people who are a bit more uncertain, a bit more analysis paralysis prone,
right,
you can end up kind of stuck in that phase until everyone makes a decision. So,
well, that was the problem that we had with Spirit Island. So we played it 2 different occasions. I was only in on one of those games. Both of the games lasted around, if I remember right, around 3.5 hours. We had 4 players, and only one knew the game. And one of the players was really AP prone. Right. So I remember at one point I had left. I forgot what I had to do, and it seemed like I was gone for 30 minutes and came back, and they were still not back to my turn yet. And I kept saying, "Wow, this just takes too long." But everyone else I've talked to loves the game, so I think it's one of those games where you got to play it with people that know the game, and you got to keep the play count low.
I would honestly play with 2. If everyone knows the game, you'd probably be fine with 4. But try it with 2, and it's really, I mean, it's Pandemic, but if you like that kind of problem solving of Pandemic, it's got that in it, but then it's got a lot more challenge in terms of, as I said, how you combine the powers, how you upgrade your spirit, how you...
I love that part about it.
Yeah. It's got a lot in it that you can really dig down into. So try playing it with 2. I really, really do recommend it.
You know what's funny? Now that you say it, the way that you develop the character and the way that you control the cards, and it's been a while since I played, probably close to 6 or 8 months, but it sort of you might like Gloomhaven now that I think about it. If you like those parts of Spirit Island, that's kind of the puzzle that's in Gloomhaven. It's not a run into a dungeon, throw dice at a monster, and try to survive and pick up the treasure. It's a puzzle of these cards in my hand, and how can I best use them with the room that I'm confronted in. You might like that. If you like Spirit Island, I'm willing to give it a chance. My buddy Jambalaya plays games. He absolutely loves. He kept talking about it all episode when we talked, and I've got to try it. We've got it coming back in, so maybe 2 players and 2 players that know the game. So a total of 3 players. That might be the way to do it. Hey, Steve O'Rourke's checking in. He loved your advice about what to do for a birthday celebration. Advice he needed to follow, but maybe ditch the 1 hour per year rule when you hit your late 40s. Yeah, Steve, you think? I don't think you and I could survive our age in a gaming marathon. That's going to be tough for you to keep up, Phoebe. Can you do it?
I should have started at like 60 hours and then minus an hour as I get older. I should have done it the other way.
The average lifespan of an Australian woman, and then gone negative from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been better. Because when you're 20, you'd be doing 60 hours, and when you're 60, you'd be doing maybe 20 or 10. Yeah. I like that. That's a good idea. Hey, Phoebe, I did find something. You said 2014 was your first big American convention, right?
It was, yeah.
I found a picture.
Oh, boy.
I found a picture of a young, impressionable Phoebe Wild with my good buddy Justin over there.
Yep.
Tell me about this picture.
Oh, this was, I think this was BGG-Con when I was running around like a mad woman, recording as many videos as I possibly could. So that convention, it was just me with a camera that I'd borrowed. And I interviewed every publisher that was at BGG-Con. Over the course of the 5 days. So I did something like 75 videos.
I'm blown away. So how old were you at the time? Roughly?
I was
early 20s,
I was
right?
21.
21, you fly all the way from New Zealand. Had you ever been to Dallas before?
I was actually over there in 2014. I was doing a year of exchange in Washington. So I was in DC, and I was like, I'm in America. I'm going to come to as many conventions as possible. And that wasn't really my first year of going to any big conventions, because the biggest we have over here is PAX Australia, which started in 2013, I think was the first year. And then it wasn't board gaming focused at all. Now it's getting bigger, but we don't have any big board gaming convention. So I was just like, go to everything, see everything, do everything. Came back with suitcases of games at the end of the year. And yeah, I just wanted to get as much done as possible.
But this is your first big convention, and you choose to spend it interviewing 75 different publishers.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that come about?
It was, well, I was talking with someone about a month or so ago, and I was like, I should start doing reviews. You know, like I have opinions on games. I've started playing a lot more games again because I played a lot when I was younger, and then during high school and first years of uni, it kind of petered out a bit, and then I got back into it. And I was like, I should start making some content. And I was like, you know what? This the university, I could rent a camera for free, so I just took that to the convention and ran with it. Just did as much as I could. So
wow.
Most of the people, a lot of the people I know now, remember me as a person running around everywhere with a tripod over my shoulder for that convention.
That is fantastic. VJ from Board Game Gumbo. Here on Gumbo Live, I'm interviewing Phoebe Wild of Bezier Games. You know, we haven't talked about any of the Bezier Games lineup for 2018. You guys have some exciting stuff. What can you share with us tonight? Maybe, hopefully, some little tidbits about things that are coming up. What you got?
Can't say too much, but obviously we just kickstarted Werewords Deluxe, which I'm very, very excited about. So Werewords just won the Golden Geek for 2017 for Best Party Game, which is amazing. And you know, as I said, I played at my birthday. It really is an amazing party game for just a bunch of people. It's easy to learn. It's really quick to play, fun to get into. So the deluxe version has a bunch of new roles. We've updated the art because we got a lot of people saying they didn't like the original art. So we're like, we're going to redo that. And we've got a new narrator with extra sass, which is a lot of fun. So
if people haven't played Werewords, give us the elevator pitch.
Imagine if Werewolf in 20 Questions had a baby, and that's Werewords. So,
I like it.
Yeah. So we all know 20 questions. You're trying to figure out a person, place, or thing, asking yes or no questions. But imagine if one of the people is a werewolf and they don't actually want you to guess the word. So we've got the original roles in the original Werewords. We had werewolf and then we had seer. So the seer knows the magic word and she's trying to help the regular villagers figure it out. The werewolf knows the magic word. He's trying to kind of be sneaky, put people off track, maybe ask misleading questions. But neither the seer nor the werewolf want to be too obvious because if they get caught, then they'll lose, just like in One Night kind of thing. So if you still manage to guess the word, the werewolf has a chance to find the seer. If he guesses correctly who the seer is, then the werewolf team still wins. So you've got to be kind of sneaky.
I do a little show called Crowd Surfing Lanyap for the Dice Tower, and I always look for things where people are throwing crazy things into a Kickstarter. And I noticed that you guys had an actual werewolf plush doll. Where did that?
We did.
Where did that come from?
Well, I think Ted's love of puns meant he had to create a lion werewolf. So it's a lying down werewolf, in a cute little plush. Werewolf.
Okay.
Yeah. And we always want to kind of offer something new and something exciting for our backers in our Kickstarter campaigns. We don't want to just have the game. We want to have, sure, add-ons and stuff for our fans that they can get. So we just thought, why not a cute, cuddly plush werewolf? So how did
that do? I didn't notice at the end of the campaign. Did a lot of people back that particular? It's an add-on, if I remember right.
I'm not sure how many people actually got the plushie. There was a level where you could get the game and a bunch of extra things and the premium tokens and the werewolf plushie. So I can't remember how many people backed that. The campaign itself got 98,000, almost 100,000 by the end of it. So we did really well. We got all our stretch goals, including we've got a doppelganger in the deluxe version now. That was our final stretch goal.
Can't beat that. BJ from Board Game Gumbo Live here with Phoebe Wild, and we're talking about Bezier Games lineup. And the next one I want to ask you about is one that I'm really curious how this is going to work. Yep. Werewolf Legacy. Yeah, so we've this has been in the works for a while, a couple of years now, and it's finally coming out this Gen Con. So we're super excited. Basically, take what you know about Ultimate Werewolf, but we're obviously working with Rob Daviau, and we've made a legacy version. So the really neat thing about this is you're not going to, obviously you can't be the same role
every game. So everyone will be a different role every game. But you will have a family. So you'll have loyalties to a family, as well as your role that will change every game. And on your family card is where you'll actually track your wins, your losses, all the things that have happened throughout the campaign. And based on the choices you make, whether the werewolf or the villager loses, you'll unlock different roles, different stories, the village will change, and then the progression of what happens next will change as well. So you can play through this multiple times and you'll get completely different experiences.
But there is an overarching story that's going to come through, I guess?
Yeah, but as I said, it'll be slightly different, or depending on what happens, majorly different every time. Okay. The other cool thing about this one is, you mentioned with Charterstone, you have the problem of some people can't come in for the next session.
Yeah.
Werewolf Legacy, you can switch people in and out between sessions and it won't make that big a difference. So you can play with less people, you can play with new people, you can change out, and it really won't make that big a difference to the overall.
It's truly a legacy party game where people can come in, come out. That is a problem for legacy games, right?
Yeah. Obviously, some people will want to play through the whole thing and see the progression from start to finish. But if you have a group where that's really hard to do, you're on completely different work schedules, you don't have to have exactly the same people every time. So
Phoebe, have you play tested just individual parts of it, or have you run a whole legacy campaign?
I actually haven't play tested any of it yet. I've seen, play testing reports. I'm completely fresh in terms of anything that could be unlocked. I can't give you spoilers. I don't even know what the spoilers are. So
wow. So you're as excited as anybody else.
Pretty much. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'll get my copy at Gen Con too, I'm guessing.
Is this Ted dabbling in a legacy game with help from Rob Davio? Is it a combination of the two, or is this Davio running the legacy part with Ted giving the background? Do you know anything about the backside of that?
I don't know exactly who's doing what, but I believe it's as much a co-development as possible. So, obviously Rob's bringing in a whole lot of experience with Legacy, with Pandemic and Risk and Seafall, Betrayal, everything that's coming in.
Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Legacy, yeah.
Oh, we got it here. Did you hear that? She confirmed it. It was a Castles Legacy game. Well, and speaking of games, Jeremy Davis, the Game Geek Ninja, he wants to know how many total games for Werewolf Legacy?
It'll be 15 games. So there'll be 5, I've forgotten the terms, but 5 sessions essentially, or 5 chapters. And within each chapter, there's 3 sessions. So it's recommended you play each chapter with the same people, but they'll each be kind of the length of a regular werewolf game. So you could easily do a chapter in a night. And then when you're switching chapters, you can also swap out people as well if you want. And
you actually haven't played this one?
I haven't played it. So,
when do you think you're going to get it?
Probably Gen Con, I hope. I don't know if I'll actually be going over, but I'll get Ted to send a copy my way if I can't make it.
Yeah, give me the details. Play count. When do you expect it to be? What's the price? What are the details?
So it's actually, you can go to bezier.games/werewolf legacy, and you can actually pre-order it right now. We have it for, I think it's $59.95 for just the base, just the box of Werewolf Legacy. But you can also buy it with replay, essentially like the recharge packs with Charterstone, packs that will let you replay through the campaign with, same people, different people, without buying the whole game again. You can just use the replay packs to kind of set up the game, refresh any components that may have been destroyed or anything like that.
I love that recharge pack. I mean, you can you just bring in a whole new group, and like you said, they may go in a totally divergent path that was completely different from the one you played with. Somebody told me you've actually played Pandemic Legacy multiple times.
I have. So season 1, I've played 3 times with 3 different groups, and I've loved it every time. It was different, yeah. So obviously, I mean, it was.
Yeah, watch the spoilers, of course. But
but the thing I loved about playing through it with different groups was everyone's reactions, because obviously after the first time I knew things that were coming.
Sure. Certain
but
events that we all know about, right?
certain events that may or may not occur during the course of the campaign.
Right.
But
Those
seeing
werewolves, oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah.
Seeing everyone else reacting and remembering how it was when I first saw that thing is a lot of fun. But also the thing that surprised me was everyone saw different combinations, different ways to do things that the first group didn't necessarily see. So one of the things, this is a spoiler, you'll at the end of every game you can upgrade your characters with different things. So that's part of the original rules when you read through them, and everyone saw different upgrade opportunities, different ways you could augment different characters to make them more powerful and specialize in different things. And that was like, they were like, oh, we could put this on this person and then they'd be able to do that really well. I'm like, oh yeah, that would work. So I was obviously very quiet. I didn't let them prepare for anything I knew about. I didn't tell them the combos that had worked well for us, and they kind of came up with all these new things that I hadn't seen and the rest of the people in my first group hadn't seen. So,
DJ from Board Game Gumbo here. I got Phoebe Wild from Bezier Games. There's one last Bezier game I want to talk about. I've been playing it a lot lately. See what you think. How's been the public's response to Palace of Mad King Ludwig, a game I really like?
It's been really good, actually. I think some people like both Palace and Castles. A lot of people seem to have a preference for one or the other, which is fair enough. I think it's a bit hard to do a sequel sometimes, but a lot of people really like the more interaction and the aggressiveness that comes into Palace that you don't really see in our other games, because obviously, you can block rooms with the moats, you can mess with other people a lot more than you can in Castles, which is more passive aggressive. Oh, I took the room you want kind of thing. So a lot of people are really liking that.
I think Palace fixed all of the few problems that I saw in Castles. I love Castles, Mad King Ludwig. I've played it a dozen times, but it seems to have fixed. It's got a little bit more player interaction, like you said. The artwork's about the same, but it's the visceral feel of building out this shared castle. The one complaint I had about, not the one, but one of the few complaints I had about Castles is that you were building what felt like just a section of a piece of a castle. Sure. Now you really feel like you're building it out.
Yeah. And it's got, the same rooms that people know and love from the original Castles, the bottomless pit, the cheese room, all those kinds of things. So it's got the same kind of humor and whimsy that I really love about Castles. But it's obviously a very different focus. Like Castles is focused on the kind of the master builder mechanic and the auctioning mechanic, whereas Palace is very much the spatial placement and the combination of your powers and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And those delicious decisions that come with, am I going to eliminate areas of the board? I've got a picture of it right here. Let me see if I can throw it up. Am I going to take this particular section that's going to give me a bonus, but I'm going to lose those points at the end of the game? That's some pretty delicious decisions, and I like that. Hey, Steve O'Rourke's got a question for you. I know we're talking Bezier, but he's curious about the Australian gaming scene. He listens to a podcast from Tasmania that talks about it. What's the local store, game cafe? Are publishers thriving? Local cons? How do you cope with all the shipping weights and costs? That's a good point. There's a lot of people that complain about the ROW, rest of the world, and what it costs to get games from here to there.
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter shipping, it's just a pain in the butt, honestly. Yeah. But there's nothing we can do about it. We're used to those kinds of costs. Whereas obviously if you said to someone from America that, oh, this game is going to cost you $70 plus another $30 to ship, you'd obviously not be happy at all with that. But it's just kind of the reality of, especially if it's a Kickstarter, it's a small publisher, that they can't really do anything else because they're not shipping, huge volumes of things. And it's just what it costs them to get things to us. The shipping weights are probably the most annoying thing, though. Like a game will come out, it's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be like a 6-month wait, but now it's 1 or 2 months after a US release it'll take for it to make its way over here.
So where's the big? I don't know what part of Australia you're from. I'm assuming one of the bigger cities.
Yeah, so I'm from Melbourne, which is southeast. One of the biggest cities. Melbourne and Sydney are kind of the two big ones.
What's the gaming scene like in Melbourne?
It's pretty good. We've got, a lot of local groups. A lot of my friends are designers, so they have playtest groups pretty often. We've got, just in the city, we've got half a dozen gaming stores of varying quality. Yeah. So we've got quite a lot, and we've got more in the suburbs, obviously. So there's a lot of places where you can go and play games or buy games. It's not as big as it is in the US. Like gaming cafes are still not really a thing. The ones that exist are not great. But, it's a pretty good environment. And we've got small publishers that are starting to make their own games now. We've got Rule and Make. There's Good Games Publishing, which used to be just a store, and then they moved into distribution, and now they've moved into publishing as well. So we've got a few local publishers that are getting our local designs out into the world, which is nice because it's.
What's your home con?
As I said, we don't really have big conventions. There's a local con. There's a few local ones in Melbourne. There's MeepleCon, which happens over just after Christmas, over the New Year kind of thing. We have BunnyCon, which is over Easter.
But BunnyCon?
BunnyCon. Yeah. The one I've been to the most is BorderCon, which Stephen actually mentioned, which is in Albury. I used to live in it's a relatively large country town. And it's just a few hundred people, but I grew up there and I know the people who run it. So I've known them for kind of 15 years.
Look, you and I have been to Gen Con. We've been to other cons, man. The small couple of hundred people that we had about 120 at our local con, and I couldn't ask for any. I didn't need any more people. There was plenty of people to play every game you ever won. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's just a nice environment, and it's, as I said, people I've known for a lot of my life as well. So it's just a really good catch up. It's a nice road trip, a 3-hour drive from Melbourne. So
right,
and
I love catching up.
Yeah.
Speaking of catching up, Jason James, my buddy Jason James from the North Shore of New Orleans, he actually drove all the way into our area in the swamp to come play. He wanted to play Castles at the Fest. We call it, of course, it's Louisiana, so it's a festival. It's not a con.
Sure.
We like to party in Louisiana, so it's a festival. But it's the Southern Board Game Fest. But Jason came over, and we didn't get a chance to play Castles or Palace. But Jason, we're going to make that happen. I'm going to be hanging out with him at Gen Con for sure. So
awesome.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here with Phoebe Wild of Bezier Games. Hey, Phoebe, there's a time in the show where Steve and I like to quiz you. Are you ready for the Envie game?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
It's time. All right. So the Envie game, just to let you know, it's an old Cajun word that just means a jonesing or a hankering for something. In this case, we play it with a board game. Your job is to think of a board game that you maybe something you own, maybe something you don't own, maybe something you've never played, or maybe it's your favorite game of all time. Some game that if you could stop the podcast right now and you had your pick of people, you'd play it right now. And don't be like Ted. Don't tell us what it is. we need to get. We're going to guess 20 questions. All right, let me get my little chart here. I am not going to cheat. I am not going to do any Google searching or anything like that. I'm just going to go based on your questions. I'll ask about 20 questions. Now the crew, I can tell you the crew to Gumbo, they're going to be asking you all kinds of questions, and I'll fire them off if they get them. But I'm going to limit myself to 20 questions, and if we can't get it by then you'll win. But if not,
all right,
we'll see what happens. All right, so the Envie game. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
First question I always ask, is it competitive or is it cooperative? And I don't know what to say on this. Usually I have a guess, but I don't have a guess on this one.
It is competitive. It's competitive.
It's not a cooperative game.
No, not cooperative.
Let me scratch the one I had off right there. Okay, so that eliminates Pandemic Legacy Season 2 and Spirit Island right off the bat, because those were two of my thoughts there. I figured you might have wanted that. What's the nationality of the designer? Is it an American designer, a European designer, or maybe one of the new, the Asian designers like Jesse Lee from Taiwan?
That's actually a really good question. Let me just
say the name of the designer. If you know.
I couldn't actually tell you who the designer is. So let me just.
Well, that's going to eliminate another one, because one of the ones I had, you would have known the designer right away. So dang it, Steve. My pre-show research is failing me, Steve O'Rourke.
I believe there are multiple designers. I believe they're American.
Steve wants to know under or over 45 minutes. I'm gonna guess
Over.
it's over. Yeah, I'm gonna
Over.
guess
Yeah.
significantly over.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing your history, I figure that. All right, is it board based or card based? I'm gonna guess it's a board based game,
It
not
is
a
board
card based
based.
game. It's
It is
board
board
based.
based.
Okay. All right. Would you consider it Ameritrash, Euro, or hybrid?
It's not Euro. I guess Ameritrash.
You
Yeah.
love Euro games, though. Are you sure
I
it's not a Euro
do.
game?
It's not a Euro. I guarantee you this one is
So the
not a
game
Euro.
you'd stop right now, it's not a Euro game. Boy, that
Yep.
throws me off. Okay, so it's
I don't really
Ameritrash.
know if it's Ameritrash either, but it's closer than Euro. So
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
the Game Geek Ninja says minis.
no minis.
No minis. No minis, Jeremy. No minis. Is it thematic or is it more of an abstract type game?
It's very thematic.
Very thematic. Yeah, that's kind of a throwaway question now that I think about it, Steve. Ameritrash game. It's going to be thematic. Oh, has it come out recently in the last 3 years?
No.
Hey, crew, that's one to follow up on. That's one to follow up on. It's not within the last 3 years. Is it a fantasy theme?
Yes. Yes.
You're hesitating there. Is
Yes.
that a clue?
No, it's probably not. Yeah, I'll just say yes. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Fantasy or medieval, maybe?
Not medieval.
Not medieval, huh? Yeah, Steve, I agree. Multiple designers. That's a clue. That's a clue that's telling us something. Now that I think about it, what Steve, what company always has multiple designers? Is it Fantasy Flight? Is it a Fantasy Flight game?
Technically, it's now a Fantasy Flight game.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a clue. Oh, Steve.
I think.
Technically, now it's a Fantasy Flight game, but has someone just picked up the license for it? Someone else?
No.
No? Oh, I was thinking
Has
you were
Fantasy Flight done recent acquisitions?
Yeah, Fantasy Flight just lost the license to Fury of Dracula. I thought maybe that's what you're referencing, but man.
No, it's not. It's not a Fantasy Flight game. It's not a Fantasy. Yeah.
But it was at one time.
No.
Oh,
I was thinking of an acquisition that is incorrect. So forget that. It's not Fantasy Flight.
So is it an Asmodee game?
Technically, now it is. Yes.
Oh man, Steve! Wow, this is almost a gimme. Oh, I can't think of it, Steve. Yeah, Marshall said the same thing. Hey, Marshall checking in. He was also at the con this weekend. Fury Dracula. I was thinking the same thing.
Not Fury Dracula.
But it's not Fury Dracula. It's not. She's saying that it's Fantasy Flight because Fantasy Flight is owned by Asmodee, but it's not actually a Fantasy Flight game. But it is something Asmodee recently picked up, right?
It's a publisher that they recently picked up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Steve wants to know, has it ever won an award? SDJ or
let me have a quick look. It has not won. It's been nominated for multiple Golden Geeks, but it has not won.
All right. To recap for some of the people just joining us, it's a competitive game, multiple designers, American. It's board-based and Ameritrash and very thematic, but it hasn't come out. It hasn't come out in the last 3 years. It's got no miniatures, and it will be published by Asmodee because they purchased the company that publishes it. It's a fantasy-ish theme, right?
Yeah.
Is it a Lord of the Rings type theme?
No.
No, so it's not Hunt for the Ring or any of those games, or War of the Ring. Man, it's a game that takes significantly longer than 45 minutes. Is it based on an IP?
No.
No IP.
No.
So it has nothing to do with any fantasy IP. Is it beyond 10 years?
No, but almost.
Wow. Okay, so we're 2000. Yeah. somewhere around 2010-ish. Boy, Steve, I am drawing a blank. Marshall, Jeremy, Jason, any of you guys have any ideas? I'm drawing a blank here. Phoebe may be getting us.
I'll give you a hint. It's not, I don't know if it's what you'd think of when you think of fantasy. It's more, I guess, fables or legends rather than like what we would typically think of as fantasy.
Okay, so not real, but not necessarily orcs and trolls fantasy.
Yeah, not that kind of fantasy.
Not that kind of fantasy. Oh, I feel like I'm going to be kicking myself on this one when we get it, when we hear it from you. Oh, So let's see. No, not a legacy game. Beyond, no. Man, anybody got a guess? You're going to have to call it Phoebe. Oh, wait, hold on. Does it have is it Cthulhu based?
It is not Cthulhu.
No, not Cthulhu. So not that kind of fantasy. Oh, man. Steve, Marshall, I am up. So it's a company that they've recently purchased. Let's see who they've recently purchased.
It's would you like another hint?
If you got one, yeah, sure.
Well, it's not based on an IP, but it is based on a book. That's not an IP.
Like Arabian Nights? Jeremy's guess is I have no idea. Thanks a lot, Jeremy. Game Geek Ninja checking in with absolutely no help with the 3 question marks.
Arabian Nights is definitely getting closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a famous book.
Well, that is the book. So.
Oh, that is the book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's based on the book Arabian Nights. I mean, is it Tales of the Arabian Nights?
It is.
No way. That's the game you drop everything to play right now.
I love that game so much.
No, I've never actually played it. And everybody talks about it all the time. Oh, Marshall said Robinson Crusoe. No, not Marshall. Yeah, you're welcome, Jeremy. So Tales of the Arabian Nights, for people that haven't played it, I know it's a story-based game, and I love story-based games. What separates it from all these other games in your mind?
I think so. People tend to either love or hate Arabian Nights. There is no strategy.
Don't match up, right?
There's no strategy. It's just hilarious to play. Like, it's the perfect game to have a couple of friends over and then just have a bottle of wine and just enjoy the ridiculous adventures that you go on. And that's what I love about it. That's why I hesitated when I said competitive, because it is technically a competitive game. Like, someone wins, but usually point where someone wins and then everyone's like, but can we just keep playing and reading stories? Like, no one actually cares about winning. It's more just the ridiculous things that happen. So, I've played this a lot with one of my best friends who's now up in Sydney, and we just have so many in-jokes and so many hilarious stories from playing these games together. So,
I love a game that Red Raven, Marshall Wells says, not an American designer. But
really?
No, I think they are American designers, though, aren't they?
Oh, I thought so. Well, I quickly looked them up on BGG. It looked like they were American, but I'm not entirely sure.
I think they are. I think it was designed by an American, but I'm not sure. But I think the fact that the American design threw him off on what the theme would be,
Sure.
But so I was talking to a friend of mine. I love. I kind of collect some of the Red Raven games, and as they keep progressing, I thought Near and Far was the one that was what Ryan Lockett was trying to do. Merge the storytelling with this overarching campaign with this really cool Euro mechanic and a beautiful artwork, right?
Yeah.
But my buddy who left the Gumbo, he moved up to Iowa. He finally got to play, and he said, Marshall said he was talking about Robinson Crusoe. That's right. Ignazzi's not an American designer. Yeah. Although he spends a lot of time in America.
He does.
But, he's not truly an American designer. But on Near and Far, he complained. He's like, if I'm going to be reading stories out of a book, why don't I just play Tale of Arabian Nights?
Yeah.
Is that your thought of Near and Far?
I've played Near and Far a couple of times. I actually ended up selling my Kickstarter copy because as much as I liked the story, I liked the story development, but I think the thing that felt weird was that the thing I enjoyed most about the game was the story. And at a certain point in the game, you'd run out of, pieces of story to collect on the board. And then you'd be left with what I thought was, it was a fine, Euro game, but the game itself didn't feel like anything without the story progressing on top of it. So to me, it wasn't enough of a Euro and it wasn't enough of a story to kind of be one or the other.
Nope, that's exactly right. We played it recently, and one of the players was really good at it and ended the game in maybe an hour, and we didn't even get to finish all the books. And I kept thinking, wow, this wasn't even that satisfying. We were playing map 7, I think. I was like, I don't even know everything that happened in map 7. I think what I want to play, I've only played it map by map, and I think what I want to try is that character progression, because it's only like 3 or 4 games, but you get the whole story as your character develops, and then you all go to the final map and try to do something. Yeah. At least that's what I pick up from the rules. So I think I'd like to do that. A couple of quick questions before we end. Steve Rourke says, hey, each new year is a new golden age of something. It was trick taking one year. It was legacy. It was deck building. And he says, storytelling without being a full-on RPG, that's the new next thing. Yeah, and that brings in Gloomhaven and Seventh Continent, both games that are all about trying to give you that RPG experience in a game, right? Oh, yeah, and Steve Rourke says Legacy of Dragonhold too.
Yeah, and that's what Fog of Love is doing as well.
Right.
It pitches as a board game, but it's really a light RPG for people who don't, want to play an RPG. There's a couple of indie games that are doing that. There was a game I picked up called 14 Days, and I think it's they only printed like 200 copies. It's a really interesting concept. It was designed by a woman who suffers from chronic migraines and her husband, and it's basically designed to create empathy and understanding about chronic illnesses. So you play in the life of someone who has chronic migraines and experience what it's like to have to balance your life around an illness and compromise what you want to do because of it and that kind of thing. So it's designed to create empathy around invisible conditions and chronic conditions. And I think it could be easily, I suffer from depression. I think it could easily be used to do the same thing with depression, anxiety, and that kind of thing.
Interesting.
So I think RPG board games are really good at kind of allowing people to step into a place of like empathy and understanding and storytelling without being intimidating with like all these rule books and all these systems that you have to learn.
Marshall wants to know if you've ever tried any story-based RPGs like Fate or Fiasco. Are you an RPGer?
I'm not a big RPGer, but it's more the case of I see a lot of, especially indie RPGs like Fiasco, that I want to play, and it's just a case of not having the time to learn the system and get a group together and everything. But I have played 10 Candles, which was excellent. I really enjoyed that one. So I don't know if you know of it.
I don't know that one.
It's basically a kind of post-apocalyptic RPG, and you play in the dark with the only source of light being 10 candles that are lit. So you have real candles.
Is this story, or this is you're physically actually doing
physically, this? Physically. So you have 10 candles, and you start the kind of character creation process by you write down one positive trait or positive quality of a character, and you pass it to your left, and you write to that person, and you write down one failing or negative trait, and you pass it to your right. And then that's how, you get a piece of paper from your left and right that kind of sums up parts of your character. And then you write down for yourself one goal or objective that your character is trying to achieve. And what you actually do during the game is it's a game that inevitably, like Fiasco, it's all going to end terribly. You're all going to die at the end of this one-shot campaign. All of your characters are going to die, and it's just telling through that story of what happened. And it's got a bunch of different settings. You kind of make up, the particular horror story as you go. But as your characters progress through all these hardships, you can actually physically burn your traits that you have in front of you when they're appropriate. So say my trait is courage, and I could burn my paper of courage to do something particularly courageous and kind of get us out of a tricky situation. But as you're doing that, you're kind of using up parts of yourself. And as you do that, you roll dice to kind of say you want to, whatever you want to do, you have to roll dice. Every dice that comes up as 6, the GM captures. So the GM slowly gets stronger and stronger. You get weaker and weaker. When you fail a check, you have to blow out one of the candles. And once all the 10 candles are blown out, that's the end of the story. You're all dead.
You've got this shared story of how your character has developed. That's some interesting mechanics. Yeah. Wow, that is crazy.
Yes. And it ends up being, very, if you play with the right people, it can be very emotional, it can be very insightful, very revealing. And it's a really interesting combining the physicality of the candles and the darkness and the burning with the imagined experience that you're all playing through.
10 candles. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I want to thank my guest, Phoebe Wild of Bezier Games, for coming into the show. How can they best reach you, Phoebe?
So you can find me, if you tweet, Facebook, anything at Bezier Games, then it'll be me responding. If you want to reach me personally, at Cardboard Vault is my handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can reach me there. That's my review website. So, yeah.
Yeah, so when we see Bezier Games, though, posting, that's you, right?
That's me. Yep.
Jeremy says, hey, thanks, Phoebe. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo. It helps us to get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows, including Brian Lewis, the designer of Dinosaur Island, coming in next week. Dinosaur Island, have you played it?
I haven't played it yet. I've heard very good things. So I did a little bit of playtesting for the now announced Dinosaur Island. So I played that a couple of times, but I haven't played the original. So
maybe next time we have you on the show, you can talk about Dinosaur Island and tell us about those games you're developing.
Yes.
I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and until next time, Phoebe, laissez le bon temps rouler.